Top 5 matchups that could turn the conference this weekend, and we have some really good Power 5 matchups. I got one from each conference this week, so everybody is covered. Good. So
we are, to be very clear, because I know we get new listeners and whatnot, like we are Big 12 driven, so to speak, but we definitely are not limited to in any way that.
We have many branches on the tree.
Yeah, very, very,
many
a lot of
strong branches. On the tree. Number 5, I picked this one over Clemson and Florida State because this one is a little bit more interesting to me in the fact that Syracuse is ranked and NC State is going to be going into this game without Devin Leary. Fortunately for him, that injury that he sustained against FSU last week does not look like it's going to be very serious and keep him out that long. He got lit up and looked like he was in a lot of pain, but he maybe has the issue kind of like Quinn Ewers had a few that he just came back from against Oklahoma. But Syracuse is undefeated, and they are now into the meat of their schedule. So we'll see if they're for real or not. But if Syracuse wins this game and goes to 6-0, then they're a threat to the rest of the ACC legitimately, because now you've beaten one of the really good teams in the ACC and can start maybe rolling on. And Dino Babers has brought this team out of nowhere because he was certainly on the hot seat when the season started because they had been very average to bad the last couple years. And now here you get a team that's already bowl eligible or about to be bowl eligible and rolling along.
Yeah, I mean, Babers has done a good job in making something out of what, was basically nothing, because I don't remember hearing too much about Syracuse football at all this offseason. But no, here they are. Garrett Schrader's playing really, really well for them, and they're putting up, some fun numbers. So, it's been interesting to see, just kind of how much of a surprise that they have been. By the way, I didn't really talk much about NC State and FSU, but what were your feelings coming out of the game, especially knowing that Leary was hurt during that game and FSU still unable to pull out a victory?
I mean, that they blew a 14-point lead in a game they were totally in control in. Yeah. And, an episode of Brain Farts, you would have thought they shoved Taco Bell in their ear so bad that that's kind of what happened. It was just they're a team. Florida State's a team that's a lot better, but they're not good yet. I mean, they're good, but they're not like where you're like, oh, man, they're good. You got to watch out for them because they will still manage to make those mistakes that teams that are talented but not good. Yeah, I guess talented is the word. Talented, they can win, but they're not good yet, and that's where they are. I put them there.
That was a difficult way to see that game end. All right, so that's number 5.
Yeah. Okay, so move on.
I only cried a little bit. Number 4, USC at Utah. For Utah, this one is pretty important because if USC wins, that puts them at 2 losses, and they're behind the 8 ball. If they can put the first loss on USC, then that means UCLA is in the driver's seat as they're undefeated right now and on a bye. So this is a game that can swing either way, and Utah could put this thing into a kind of a mess if they can win this game and then continue to keep winning coming off the UCLA loss, or USC can kind of maybe put Utah not out of it, but outside looking in for sure.
Yeah, USC is, a real question mark. I mean, I think everybody knows that they're much improved and they're, very talented in some areas, but I think everybody's kind of waiting for them to get super tested. And if there was any team that you feel like could just physically come in and be a big measuring stick for the Trojans, even though the record's not quite maybe what you thought it would be heading into this year. And then obviously not being physical, but you got great skill players. I mean, starting with Cam Rising, but you got others as well. This should be fun. I think Utah's kind of in a place now where maybe they're not getting a ton of attention, and they're top 15 going into last week. Yeah. So it's not like they, have had a bad year by any means, but I think it's just maybe been a little bit lower than what was expected with a high rating early on, but they're fully capable of winning this game, especially at home. And I can't wait to see this because this is going to be one of those first real big challenges for Caleb Williams and Lincoln Riley and company. This ought to be a very nice, I keep going back to it, but measuring stick.
Yeah, I think that Utah, if they don't win this game, there's another team that got a lot of high expectations in the top 10, right?
Yeah.
A&M, Utah, Baylor was right outside. They were, 15, 16?
Yeah.
This is to me, either they're going to just, get into a bowl game, whichever one you want to name it, or they have a chance to still win that Big 12 title or play for it.
Yeah. Or Pac-12.
That's
Yeah, but no, I was surprised by UCLA last week. Winning that game the way that they did. I felt like they won it rather easily when all was said and done, and I was a bit surprised by that. That was the one game I got wrong. I just thought that Utah would be a little nastier than they were, but I give a lot of credit to Chip Kelly and the Bruins. So yeah, I'm very intrigued by this game this weekend.
So do I, but apparently not enough for the UCLA world. Number 3, Penn State at Michigan. This one, both teams undefeated, and Michigan looks like a Michigan team like they normally are, is where their defense is really solid. Their offense is okay, but it's not world-beating offense. And this is the mission for one team to go in and be undefeated when they face Ohio State, right? This game right here. So whoever loses this one, and again, they have others that they can lose along the way, but you got to win this one so that when you play Ohio State, you also have a 0 by your name.
Yeah, Michigan's kind of bored me to this point. Yeah. Am I alone in that?
And they're fine with that.
And then it's fine. It's fine. They're winning and they're doing their job. Their job's not to entertain me, but it's been just a very boring start to their season because their schedule was so bad. So I'm super excited to see them, ramp up a bit with Penn State and a known commodity in the Nittany Lions. That ought to be a lot of fun. But I think that Michigan's got to be considered the pretty clear favorites in this game. I don't see a whole lot of chatter about, a big upset this weekend. But, Penn State's a top 10 team. So, if they can't compete with Michigan, then Michigan must be pretty dadgum good or the rankings are just atrocious. And I don't think that they are. The fact that you got Parker Washington, Sean Clifford, Penn State could do some damage, but Michigan does look awfully good, even if this is the first time we're going to see them really have a huge kind of challenge in front of them.
I sometimes have to remember that Penn State's undefeated. Talk about flying under the radar as a big boy, name, but they have been somewhat hit and miss of late, and so James Franklin has them in a position to be a huge win if they can go into Ann Arbor and get that done.
Yeah, absolutely. Number 2, Oklahoma State and TCU here in the Big 12. 2 unbeatens squaring off here. One of them a surprise. One of them shouldn't be. That they're undefeated. Maybe that they came to Waco and won, but shouldn't be too surprising that at this point in the season that Oklahoma State hasn't lost yet. This one is, TCU could wind up playing back-to-back instant classics after that Kansas game last week, and this one will put one of the teams where now you kind of have to ride the wave out for the rest of the year and get that first loss, which you don't want to have because the closer you get to the end of the season without having it, the more likely you are to be in AT&T Stadium.
Yeah, I go back and forth on this game. I'll have a pick by Friday, obviously when we do picks, but I think it's been very interesting to kind of see the journey for both so far. I do feel like Oklahoma State fans are getting, very much into the we're disrespected angle of things. And there's an argument for why they could feel disrespected. Spencer Sanders has played really well. I don't think it's disrespect, though. I think they're taking it the wrong way. I think it's just merely people wanting to see them play some more games to be convinced of just exactly where they are on the scale of good. You know what I mean? We all can acknowledge they're good. They're a good team, but to what degree? Are they Big 12 favorites good? That I'm not willing to say just yet, based on what we've seen so far. Are they Big 12 favorite contender? Abso-freaking-lutely. But, I'm not pushing my chips all in on them just yet. This will be a very telling game for both. I'm not ready to dive all in with TCU either. But guess what? If they go win this game this weekend, that'll change a little bit. So, I'm looking forward to seeing who emerges from this one because they'll have a huge huge advantage in the final weeks of this race.
And number 1, Bama and Tennessee from Rocky Top. This could very easily be Bama's mulligan game if they lose it, where people pretend like it didn't happen, which happens to Bama every time they lose a game. Every year, it's just they
didn't really want to be there.
That didn't happen. Yeah. Look, they were just sometimes they play with their food, and the food plays back.
Brilliant.
But yeah, this could be that, or Bama could really break out of what's kind of a doldrum if you ask their fans about the way they've been playing and beat a good Tennessee team that can really score. Can't stop a whole lot of people yet regularly, but they're scoring so much so far it doesn't matter. And for Tennessee, if they beat Alabama, it's going to give them some extra juice to maybe go and beat Georgia when they have to play them.
I still think, and I'm the only one that I believe thinks this, unless you're a Volunteers fan, I love their fight song. I know a lot of people are annoyed with that. Rocky Top.
I like it.
I like it. It's got a little beat to it. I do know that there's some that are like, man, I can't stand that. I don't know. It's one of my favorites, and I don't have too many of the fight songs, but that's one that I love this game. I can't wait to watch it on Saturday. Tennessee, right on the cusp, at home against an Alabama team that has shown that they are human.
I mean, yeah, this ought to be great. Knoxville's going to be rocking. Hendon Hooker's playing really well. I'm excited to see that atmosphere as much as anything else, because I think this is the first time in a long time this game has mattered as much as it matters right now. That's the whole point of this thing. And obviously somebody gets a big leg up in, SEC, not that they're in the same division, but just in terms of kind of the positioning and where they are in the rankings and whatnot. This would be a huge, huge win for Tennessee. It's be a big win for Bama too, but this would obviously mean a lot more to the Vols than it would to the Tide, who are kind of accustomed to winning these types of games. So, yeah, this will be heated, and that's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
All right. Thank you, Paul. Appreciate